Hi, everybody, and welcome to Kane Sports Miami Hurricane G.O.A.T.S, which means the greatest hurricanes of all time. This episode features one of the most accomplished coaches in Miami history. He is Mark Richt, who not only had a successful coaching career, albeit a short one at Miami, but other places too. 14 years at FSU, and Mark's Georgia Bulldog teams won 2 Southeastern Conference championships, 5 SEC division titles, and at Miami, 1 Atlantic Coast Conference division title. He was the 2-time SEC Coach of the Year, the 2017 ACC Coach of the Year, and the winner of the National 2017 Walter Camp Coach of the Year Award. Now, Mark will not coach anymore. He retired after the 2018 season, unfortunately, after he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. But he remains optimistic and upbeat with his brand new job as an analyst on the ACC network. He's done it for a couple of years. Welcome one of the most popular and accomplished coaching canes of all time, Mark Richt. Well, here you are as the ACC network new analyst, couple of years doing it. Look very happy in that role. I know coaching is your first love, but tell me about that job first, Coach, and what it's like in that new set for you.
I enjoy it. It's definitely still a lot of teamwork, a lot of camaraderie. You know, everybody I'm working with is half my age and they're keeping me young. You know, those guys are pushing really hard to be professionals and make a career of it. And I'm kind of doing it for fun. So it takes a little pressure off of me not to have to be the coolest guy or the smartest guy on the set. But I'm enjoying it very much.
You know, we talked about this in the intro. It was kind of a shock that you had to leave Miami after just 3 years. And by the way, 3 very successful years because of Parkinson's. Before we talk about it, I want people to understand what Parkinson's is. So I'm going to give some facts and information about Parkinson's disease. Sure. Parkinson's is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder that primarily affects movement, in some cases cognition. Individuals with PD may have a slightly shorter lifespan compared to healthy individuals of the same age group. According to Michael J. Fox's foundation, patients usually begin developing symptoms around age 60. By the way, you're 62 now. And many live between 10 and 20 years after being diagnosed. It can't be cured, but medication can help control your symptoms, often dramatically. Some more advanced cases, surgery may be advised. Your doctor may also recommend lifestyle changes, especially ongoing aerobic exercise. First and most important question is, how are you doing with it? How are you feeling?
Right. Well, I feel great, actually. The blessing of this whole thing is it's not, I'm not in any kind of chronic pain. I mean, I'll get muscle stiffness, muscle tightness more than normal, what was normal at one time, you know, so, and fatigue kind of jumps on me harder and faster than what was normal for me before I had Parkinson's. And that's really kind of what got me at the end of my coaching career in Miami. I had this, what I described as extreme fatigue. You know, you're always tired when you're a coach. You live with it for 35 years. You don't think much about it, but I was experiencing a fatigue that I felt like if I kept going, something bad was going to happen to me health-wise. And what I didn't realize is something bad already did happen to me, and it was the Parkinson's.
But you had didn't you? You had a heart attack too, didn't you, at one point?
Yeah, I did. So when I left Miami, within about a year or so, you know, we moved to the beach. I would say Catherine and I moved to the beach in Destin, Florida. And I kind of always promised her, the beach at the end, you know. So we had a little routine of walking to the gym about 30 minutes and getting a little workout in and walking home. And one day in the middle of the workout, actually at the very end of my workout, I couldn't quite finish my last set of shoulder shrugs or whatever it was, and started to it got to where I couldn't catch my breath. I started getting heated up, started getting nauseous.
Wow.
Went into the locker room to try to make myself feel better, but nothing was working. So long story short, I end up at the hospital, and they're operating on me, putting 3 stents in my widowmaker and putting 1 stent in another artery that was 100% blocked. So, I'm laying there on the table and my eyes are closed and I feel the light, you know, through my eyelids, so to speak. You know, the light's there because of the operating room so bright. And so I'm laying there, and there's a voice off to my left asking me what I'm feeling. Normally they put you out for that, but my blood pressure went so low, they were afraid of me coding, which is code for dying.
Wow.
And so they didn't
So
put me out.
it really was this. I mean, I never heard this part of it. I never heard
Oh
that
yeah,
it was that close.
So they left the EMTs in the room with the little shock machine just in case. But so they're asking me what I'm feeling, and you know, little by little, my body was going numb. And then the last time they asked me what I was feeling, I said, my head and my ears are going numb, and then everything blacked out. So I really, truthfully, Roy, thought I was done. I thought that was it. And but the good news was I felt the peace, you know, that God talks about in His Bible, about that surpasses all understanding. You know, I knew I was going to heaven, bottom line, and I was excited to go. And so I thought I was on my way, and then I heard this voice say, "Wake up!" And I didn't know if it was Jesus or Satan, but no, I'm just kidding.
It depends upon what era you were in, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But
hey, I want the folks to see some of the symptoms too before we continue to talk about this. Some of the symptoms have included with Parkinson's, not a heart attack, but Parkinson's, tremors. Did you notice a slight shaking or tremor in your finger, thumb, hand, or chin? Small handwriting. Has your handwriting gotten much smaller than it was in the past? A loss of smell, trouble sleeping, trouble moving, walking, masked face, dizziness, or fainting. Did you have any or many of those symptoms?
Yeah, mine is mostly slow movement. It's called bradykinesia. Brady means slow, kinesia means movement. And so my movement has slowed down tremendously. I get muscle rigidity. My muscles just want to get really tense if I don't keep moving and keep stretching. And they have what's called freezing, where your feet will kind of get stuck, and you have to kind of tell yourself to move. You might have to rock a little bit to get your feet moving, type thing. Not much tremor, very slight in my left hand. But you know, those are some of the things. I did lose my sense of smell back at Georgia. And what happens, Roy, what happens when you finally are diagnosed with Parkinson's, when the movement symptoms or the motor symptoms manifest, the ones we've been describing, by the time they manifest, you've probably had it 5 to 10 years. So
you might have been coaching with Parkinson's.
Oh, there's no question I was at Miami. And I'm pretty sure at the end of Georgia I was as well, because one of the non-motor symptoms is loss of smell, which you just mentioned on the screen. And I remember losing my smell in 2012.
Wow.
Which was, 3 years left at Georgia. So I've had it really longer. What happens is you have the dopamine in your body is your action cells. And when you lose your dopamine, then your movements slow down. And so like right now, more than likely 80% of my dopamine is gone, never to come back. And so the goal for me now is to stay in stage 1 and be as careful with these remaining 20% of my dopamine in my body, where it doesn't take over.
Mark, I want to ask you, you talked before, your faith is so important to you, and you're so blessed, and you have a beautiful family. But I wonder, through this ordeal, did you question God? Did you question your own faith?
Never did. Going back to the heart attack, if you start with that, in 1986, Coach Bowden led me to Christ after the death of Pablo Lopez, one of our players.
Yep.
And so, I always felt like my faith was real back then. And what happens, Roy, when you accept that gift of Jesus's, death, burial, and resurrection, your spirit and soul are made perfect in God's sight. Our behavior doesn't quite catch up to who we are in Christ, because we still live in these bodies that have, still have sin habits in our brains and all that kind of stuff. But one day we're going to get these glorified bodies with no sin and no disease. And I know that's coming. That's a promise of God. And so that gives me not only peace, but hope. If my hope is only in what's on this earth, you just read what it was. Parkinson's is not friendly. It's a progressive disease. It gets worse over time, and you literally become a prisoner in your own body because your body can't move anymore.
Like Muhammad Ali, like
exactly.
Michael J. Fox.
Correct. So if that's all I had, if all I had to look forward to is what's on the earth, that's not a whole lot to look forward to. But if my hope is in eternal things, not temporal things, then I know where I'm going in the end. And so that's where I have my peace. That's where I have my hope. And I've never really had a moment where I'm like, why me, God? I mean, why not me? I abused my body with not enough sleep and didn't exercise like I should, and probably had some markers for Parkinson's, and got my I didn't take care of myself well enough to keep it from manifesting. So
do you think coaching contributed to it, was part of it?
Oh yeah. Well, they say some of the three biggest triggers for Parkinson's is toxins in your body, inflammation in your body, and stress. So that's coaching is a recipe for disaster when it comes to that, because you get rid of toxins by exercising. If you don't do enough of that, it's not good. Your brain detoxes as you sleep. Well, we don't sleep enough. We got plenty of stress. We could vouch for that. And inflammation in the body comes with some of the things we do as coaches as well. So probably didn't help much, I'd have to say.
You're a really terrific human being, Mark. I don't know you well, but I know your story really well. The reason I say you're a terrific human being is because you live your faith, you and Catherine. And I'm going to bring back a memory that, of course, is ongoing for you. It's your reality. It goes back to 1999 when you adopted two children from Ukraine,
right?
One of whom who's had a serious issue, and that is a protein disorder, which a Proteus syndrome, which can be a disfigurement of the face. They did a beautiful essay, a beautiful piece. I think it was ESPN, right around the beginning of that era when we just had adopted the children. I want you to watch it with us again. It's going to get emotional to watch this, but it's a beautiful piece, and I want to reflect on this. Watch.
While the two boys that we had, Jonathan and David, were definite blessings, we felt like there was more of us to give.
There was a scripture in the Bible talking about how the church should be the ones helping the widows, the orphans, and the poor. And I'm thinking, what are we doing, really, to help in this way?
The Richts found their answer in a photograph from an orphanage halfway around the world, in the Ukraine. There, a little girl named Anya captured their hearts from the first moment they saw her.
She has a facial deformity, and so her mom and dad gave her up because of the deformity, and they probably didn't have enough money to care for her.
Would anyone adopt this child? I was thinking, probably not. Probably not, so maybe we should.
Mark's eyes teared up, and he said, yeah, that could be our baby girl.
6 months later, in July 1999, they were at that orphanage.
The children have just woken up from a nap and are coming out to play. Is that Anya?
She was only 18 pounds and she was 2.5. She looked, just so small and so vulnerable and so tiny. Somebody that you just wanted to pull in and hug and shield from the world, basically.
But the Richts decided they could do more. So they adopted a son as well.
Oh, there he is.
3.5-year-old Zach.
He was abandoned and left in a drawer. I'm not even sure at what age or for how long. So they both, you just were like, wow, these precious little babies.
Woo! It gets me.
You got me.
It still gets me. Did it get you a little bit too? Look at that.
Yeah, you got me. You didn't warn me about this one. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, I'm the guy who makes them cry, But Coach, I want to know how that love has touched your life, those kids.
Well, the bottom line with them is usually those orphans in the orphanages in Ukraine, if they don't get adopted by a certain age, they really just turn them out on the street.
Mm.
And in their early teens, and they just got to fend for themselves. And a lot of times there's, the sex trades, and there's just human trafficking in general, human slavery is usually what happens to those kids, unless they can just survive on the streets on their own somehow. But
I don't know that a lot of people would do what you did, you and Catherine did. And I want to talk about Catherine for a second, because she's been the driving force in your life.
yes,
Take a few minutes and reflect on this woman.
well, she loves the Lord, as much as I do. And our success in our marriage, we believe, is the fact that we're both pursuing God and what God wants in our lives. And if we're both pursuing God, we end up in the same spot. And but she's always helped me in the toughest times. She's the only person that I trust unconditionally.
Mhm.
So she knows everything about me, good, bad, or indifferent. And so when things have ever gotten rough for me, and things have gotten tough for me
Sure
throughout
they
my
have.
career,
Sure.
she's been there. And when it comes time to make big decisions, she's so predictable. It's like, she'll ask me, do you think this is what God wants you to do?
Mm.
And she said, if the answer is yes, let's do it. If the answer is no, let's not do it.
Mhm. She wanted you to come forward on the Parkinson's thing. She wanted you to be open about it, and you wanted to somewhat keep it, covered a little bit. She wanted you to
Well,
be.
you really don't know what to do and who to tell. We told our family members individually, in person, everybody that we could. And then, both of us, Catherine and I both decided that, I'm still a little bit of a public figure. I do a lot of speaking still. I do the ACC network, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
And, my balance isn't great. And, it looks like my back's in pain sometimes. And so when people look at me, they're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay? Can I help you? So instead of making up a bunch of stories about what the issue is, we decided to make it public. And she was right there, along my side in agreement with that decision. And it was, quite frankly, therapeutic for me.
Sure.
You don't want to try to hide something.
Right.
And I've never really been that kind of person anyway. So to be able to get it out there in the open was good for me.
Yeah, you said something a second ago about physically, sometimes you lose your balance, but to me, I think you got nothing but balance in your life. And I mean that metaphorically speaking. I want to talk about your family. I want to talk
Sure.
about these kids and what they've brought into your life.
Well, John's our oldest son, and he's actually in my house right now. John and Anna, his wife, who met at Prince Avenue Christian School and got married in their teens. They've got 3 children, and you can see 2 of them there. Jaden's the oldest daughter, and Zoe's the number 2 daughter, and our first and second granddaughters. And since that time, we've got a 3rd member of their family, a 3rd grandchild named Champ, Jonathan Allen Richt the second. So, but we call him Champ. So they bought a house, literally 7 houses down the street.
Beautiful.
And it's in the middle of a renovation right now. So they're living with us, hopefully for 3 to 6 months. So that's exciting. And then my son David is married to Joanna. They both went to Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, both musically inclined. And
Oh, great.
they've decided they love Nashville, so they're living in Nashville. And they've got 2 cats and a dog, so they're getting close to having babies. And when they do, we'll be pushing hard to get them down to Athens, Georgia.
Hey, how is Anya doing? She's obviously had some challenges.
Yeah,
She's
done well.
Was she ever bullied or anything like that as a kid?
You know what? One thing we taught her early on was to say, if a kid's looking at her, to say, hello, my name's Anya. What's your name? And so, sometimes a kid might have looked at her when she was young and been curious or wondered what's going on and not knowing how to react. As soon as you start speaking and say your name and ask their name, then all of a sudden, hey, she's just a person like me.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot. And she's had this unbelievable confidence ever since she was a little midget. And she's like, even when it came time for, homecoming queen at the school, if she went on the court, she was like thinking it was rigged, But she's very, very beautiful and very, very smart. And
God bless.
She's a vet tech, like a veterinary nurse, and she lives in Athens. So
beautiful, beautiful. I want to move on and talk about Coach Bowden. You mentioned it before that he was a singular person in your life in finding your faith. After Pablo Lopez was killed, you listened to his eulogy. You walked into the door and said, I want to learn how to become closer to God. We're going to show some pictures of you with Bobby. What kind of a man this was in your life?
Well, Coach Bowden, that first picture was him at Florida State, and me as a quarterback at Miami. I think I got the job at Florida State partially due to the fact that I was at the rival school of Miami, and he was kind of hoping I had the playbook. But that's how I got my foot in the door. But that second picture, I was had a Georgia shirt on, and this one here as well. Year 2 at Georgia, 2002, we ended up in the Sugar Bowl and played against Florida State, played against Coach Bowden, and that was very emotional time for me.
I bet.
But next to my father, he's the most influential man in my life, as he did, lead me to Christ back in 1986. And everybody kind of has a picture of who he was: a man of faith, a man of family, and a man of football. And in that order were his priorities. And working for him for 15 years was the greatest blessing that I could have hoped for.
Mm. And an irony is the guy that maybe made it all happen for you at Florida State. Of course, Coach Bowden wasn't there anymore, but it was Florida State where you really your life changed, and then you end up beating them. Well, that's the business of football, and that's the business. Right. But it was really, truly one of the most signature victories, I think, in recent years, and a thrilling. People will never stop. Darrell Langen making that play and the knee just getting over that line was one of the most thrilling moments, I think, in recent years for Canes fans. It was just.
Well, I was, as it was being reviewed, now you're sitting there going, do you go for the win if you're on the 1 inch line? But if you get stoned, you lose the game, or do you kick the field goal to tie? I mean, I was sitting there debating what I was going to do after that. If it was short an inch or two, I'm sure we'd have gone for it. But
you would have gone for it. Okay.
I think we would have had to that close.
I want to ask you a question.
Thankfully, he was there.
I want to ask you a question. As a man of faith, I'm not kidding now. Do you, in a moment like that, say, "Help me out, Lord"? Make sure this is a touchdown for me.
Most of my prayers are pregame. I ask God to give me a peaceful mind where I can think straight and make good decisions throughout the ball game. And I pray for the health of both teams. You don't want anybody to get hurt in the ball game, but at that moment, I can't say that I've never said, "Hey, Lord, give me some divine intervention." But for the most part, I pray for peace, a peaceful mind that can think straight and make good decisions for the team.
If I could point to one, I'm a big Cane person. Alma mater, my kids all went to school there too, and you know that. But if I could point to one most satisfying of the wins in your era, it would be the night you guys beat the hell out of Notre Dame.
We literally put Notre Dame in shock that day. And I think it was one of those days where, everybody for years has been longing to go back to the Orange Bowl days And it was one of those days where Hard Rock was just, it was rocking as hard as the Orange Bowl ever did rock. And I mean, J-Lo was, and
A-Rod. Was A-Rod there too, I think? I don't think
they were dancing.
They weren't dating at that point, though. I don't think. Maybe they were.
I think they were side by side, but anyway, everybody was dancing in the stadium, and it was just a great day.
It was tremendous. Okay, a few more things, and I appreciate you taking the time. We're going to show some rare pictures of you as a player at under the center, and all your experiences as a player for the Canes. There you are. I guess this is the early '80s. If you could have the portal now because you're playing behind Kelly, would you have gone the portal way to play somewhere else, or would you have stayed at Miami?
You know, I might have. I actually went to Coach Snellenberger, and that's a great picture with Jim Kelly, number 12, and Kozar, number 1, Testaverde, number 18. I was number 9. 13 was Kyle Vanderwen, but the first 3 guys I've mentioned were all first-round draft picks. And the coach was Earl Morrall, the great Colt and Miami Dolphin. Of course, that's Coach Snellenberger with us. You know, I went to Coach Snellenberger and said, I want to transfer.
Wow.
And he said, okay, that's fine if you want to do that. He says, but if you change your mind, you know, I'll keep the door open for you.
Wow.
And I started living out the decision of leaving and basically quitting in my mind. And I felt like a quitter. I'm like, I'm not quitting. I'm going back to coach and tell him I want to stay. And thankfully he let me stay, and wasn't thankful so much retrospectively because I got to play and be the star that I hoped to be. I mean, Jim Kelly basically was living my life for me. But, you know, I was thankful that I went through that time because I matured a lot as a person through the trials. You know, we grow through the trials, and it helped me grow quite a bit.
You know, that brings up the next point. Because of the portal now, and I don't want to necessarily use the word quitters, but a lot of kids, if they're not getting the playing time, will just say, the hell with it. I'm going to go to the portal and get out of here. And I wonder if that changes the motivation of a young athlete, and maybe it clouds the real reason you're supposed to be at one place. Now, sure, there are situations where you do want to go to another place and play. We've seen it, and it's been great for some, but not everyone. I think 40% of those who go to the portal don't get another opportunity. They don't get their scholarship. So what's your thought of the portal? And then I'm going to ask you about NIL.
Right. Well, you know, I understand why it exists. I understand why guys go in the portal. You know, I do worry a little bit about when things get tough, do you just pick up and move? You know, is that going to be the way you live your life, you know, going down the road? Hey, every time something gets tough, you know, this marriage ain't going the way I thought, I'm out, you know, or, you know, trying to raise these kids and provide for the family is too much, or my boss is a jerk and I'm out, you know, I quit, you know. So you don't want that to happen. But obviously we read mostly about the success stories of the guys that transfer and have great things happen. And so you can't argue with those. But like you mentioned, I'm glad you did mention it, 40% of the guys that go in the portal don't land, they land with no scholarship. They lose everything. And so you just got to be careful what you ask for. And sometimes it's good. You know, like I had a guy named DJ Shockley at Georgia. And he played behind David Green for 4 years. And then he played his 5th year as a redshirt, won the SEC in 2005, and he got drafted to the NFL. And now he does he does television and radio for Georgia, basically. And, you know, he grew as a man too. And, you know, would he have left in the portal? Maybe so, but I think he never regretted, you know, sticking around and toughing it out.
Do you think the name, image, likeness payments, and we're seeing it at Miami, we're seeing it at other schools too, obviously, some have been gone into the millions of dollars.
Right.
Is it a good thing for college football?
You know, I don't know. Here's how I look at it. It's the new normal. You know, if people ask me if you were coaching, how would you handle it? And the bottom line is, if you want to cry about it or say what a mess it is, you might get passed by. I think you got to understand it's the new normal and manage it and do the best you can to take advantage of the rule. Because if you don't, you're going to get left behind.
Is it harder to recruit with NIL or easier?
Well, the bottom line is you're not supposed to guarantee these NIL deals during recruiting, but I'm sure those things are happening.
Sure.
Or if you look at, once we have a few years of this, there'll be some history. Hey, if you go to Miami, you're going to get this. That's what happens at Miami, or this is what happens at Georgia or Alabama, Florida State, whatever it is. It's the problem. I think the biggest problem with the NIL right now is the fact that there are no limitations to it. And I don't think there ever will be limitations to it. I think certain states handle it one way, another state handles it another way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to get your arms around it, because the thing of it is, once you allow those guys to make money, you can't restrict their earnings. It's against the law to do that. So that's why it's into the millions of dollars. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. So,
well, you're going to have a situation someday, if not right now, where some players are making more money with NIL than some of their assistant coaches.
Oh yeah, that's already happening. There's no doubt about that. And, everybody's got to learn to live with it. I mean, bottom line is you're getting what the market's going to bear. If the market says the assistant coach makes $350,000 a year and the kid makes $1 million a year, that's life. That's part of the American way.
Mm-hmm. A couple more things. I want to show some more pictures of you at Miami coaching. What do you miss about being on that sideline, Coach?
I miss the camaraderie with the coaches and the relationships with the players. When you recruit these players, there's a good percentage of them that come from fatherless homes. Mm-hmm. And you get the single mom, or you get the grandmother who raised these guys. And during recruiting, they don't have their hands out for anything. They come to me and say, look, I can teach my son or my grandson a lot of things, but I can't teach him how to be a man. Can you do that for me, Coach? Mm. So, not only are we trying to teach them X's and O's and throwing and catching and tackling and all that, we're trying to teach them how to become a man. And manhood's a lot more than just how much money you make and how many women you can date. It's about taking care of business in life.
Yeah.
And so we always try to do our very best to prepare these guys for life after football as much as we wanted to win. And some people thought because I cared so much about that part of it, I didn't care enough about winning, which is a bunch of junk. You could be as competitive person in the world and still care about what happens to your players after they're gone.
Yeah.
But that was, when those moms would say that to me, I took that charge seriously and did my best to hire the right kind of coaches that would be good mentors and good examples for these guys.
Mm. Mario Cristobal, we're almost out of time. Mario Cristobal is the new face of Miami football, sure. And he's assembled a hell of a coaching staff. What advice would you hand to Mario Cristobal heading into this new endeavor?
Well, I don't think I need to give him any advice because he's a hurricane. He knows what it's like to be at the U. He knows what it's like to be a championship player on a championship team. I think maybe 2 championships he was involved in.
Yeah.
So, and plus, he's got wonderful head coaching experience, coming out of Oregon and, work with Coach Saban in Alabama. He's got some great background and foundation to be able to handle the job at Miami. And I think he's also living at a time where it's kind of unprecedented as to the financial support that's being given to the football program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that helps. But by the way, Coach, people forget you donated personally $1 million to University of Miami football back in the days when they weren't getting this kind of money.
Right.
So you put your money where your mouth was.
Yeah,
right?
We did. It was to get that indoor facility done, and we just, you think, why does Miami need an indoor facility? Because it's always sunny and hot and all that. But if you get any kind of threat of lightning, practice is shut down.
Right.
So you'll miss 30 practices a year if you don't have an indoor.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was important enough to do it. And it is my school. I love Miami, and I wanted Miami to be great. And I knew it was something we needed desperately. So like you said, I put my money where my mouth was.
And there's the picture. I love this picture because we show where your heart is on that ACC set, right? There, it's the U.
I got no problem cheering for the U, baby.
Coach Richt, it's great to see you. Thank you for spending the time and reflecting. I know some of these moments were emotional for you, and it was very, very candid. I thank you for your time. God bless you. Take good care of yourself and enjoy your family.
I will. And go Miami.
All right. We thank our guest, former Hurricanes head coach Mark Richt, for joining us on Cane Sports GOATS, the greatest Canes of all time. We'll see you next time, everybody.